Part 92. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 911. Chapter 911 Suicide Note. At this point, Xiaoling also roughly understood what was going on. It was probably those fans who didn't like Xiaoyu and tortured her in every possible way, and finally tortured her to death. She was a little sad. She didn't expect that Xiaoyu had been plotting against others all her life. In the end, evil people will be punished by evil people. Doesn't anyone in the prison care about this kind of thing? Xiaoling asked. Gulin sneered, who cares? There are also fans of yours among the prison guards. You are pretty good at not making trouble for us. But when you saw us being tortured, you almost clapped your hands and screamed. Let me tell you, those fans of yours are beasts. They are all the same. When I am released from prison, I will definitely ask my father to take care of them. The more she talked, the more excited she became, and she wanted to throw herself on the glass and tear Xiaoling to pieces. Xiaoling looked at her haggard face and suddenly felt that she was very pitiful. The originally rich young lady was reduced to death, being slaughtered by others, and had no way to make a living. Perhaps it was a miracle that she had not gone crazy yet. Xiaoling softened her tone and continued to ask, from what you said, this is not the first time Lillian and the others have bullied people. How could they be so unmeasured and torture Xiaoyu to death? Do they have the guts to kill people in prison? Gulin shook her head and whispered, none of them have killed anyone before, at least, there is nothing on the record. That was very strange. Xiaoling couldn't figure it out. No matter how big the hatred was, why would they take the risk to do something to a person who was going to be executed the next day? Here. There is really no other reason? She looked at Gulin, has anything strange happened in the past few days? Gulin shook her head again and fell silent. Xiaoling sighed when she saw that she couldn't get anything out of the question. She had a vague suspicion in her heart that maybe this matter had something to do with Pei Zion, but if that was the case, that man's obsession was too deep and terrifying. Do you have anything else to ask? Gulin said. That's all for now. Xiaoling looked at her. Now, in return, you can make requests. I will do anything for you that I can do without violating my principles. Gulin twisted her clothes with her fingers. After a long while, she put down her pride and said softly, can you tell Lillian and the others to stop troubling me? Since being imprisoned, her life has been worse than death, and even her teeth have been damaged. The prisoners knocked out several of them, and she really couldn't stand such a life anymore. This request is easy to handle. Xiaoling opened the small red bag she carried with her and took out a beautiful notepad. She opened it and found many notes, lyrics, and graffiti that she had jotted down when inspiration struck. She tore off a piece of paper, took out an eyebrow pencil, and wrote for Lillian and her signature on the paper. Very beautiful, like a rare piece of art. She handed the piece of paper to Gulin. You go and give it to Lillian, just say I gave it to her and ask her not to embarrass you again. Gulin took the paper, her hands trembling slightly. She suffered so many beatings and sufferings, and she also watched Xiaoyu die in front of her eyes. And since Xiaoyu died, the demons began to torture her continuously for fun. Can such a deep and terrifying injury be expunged by this thin piece of paper? Gulin was unsure but full of expectations. Xiaoling ignored her inner twists and turns, picked up her bag and walked out of the visiting room. There was a jailer waiting for her outside. Xiaoling asked, is something wrong? The jailer said, Miss Ling, I heard that Xiaoyu was expelled from the family. She has no relatives now. Do you want to help her collect her body? If you don't help her collect her body, we can only bury her as a lonely ghost. Xiaoling was stunned for a moment before she remembered that there was still this problem. She looked at the long corridor unconsciously. At the end, there was a faint dark blue-gray skylight. Okay, I'll take it, just let me take it, she said, No matter what kind of grudges they had, they would disappear with death. How could two sisters who were entangled like trees and vines see each other off for the last time? The jailer breathed a sigh of relief. "Thank you, Miss Ling, this can save us a lot of things. By the way, please come with me. Xia Yu gave us a letter before she died. She entrusted us to say, if you are willing to help her collect the body, I will give you this letter. If you are not willing, burn it." Xia Ling was a little curious. What kind of letter could it be? When she got home, she kicked off her shoes, sat cross-legged on the sofa, and took out the letter. It was a very thin letter, as light as weightless, making people wonder whether there was anything inside. She asked the servant to get a paper knife, opened it carefully, and took out a piece of letter paper filled with Zhuangzi's small characters. "That's Xia Yu's handwriting. Sister, when you read this letter, I have already left this world. Don't feel sorry for me. Maybe you are not sad at all. However, I would rather believe that you still feel sorry for me a little bit, otherwise you wouldn't choose to help me collect my body, right? Because of your heartache, let me tell you something, the person who tricked you into smoking marijuana in the club last time was really not me, but Sutang. There is no doubt that she hates you more than I do. She tried to ruin your reputation this time but failed, and maybe she will kill you next time. Women can be very cruel when dealing with love rivals. You have seen it from me. Ha, don't think that Sutang is kinder than me. That's all, it's up to you to believe it or not. I look forward to your sugar-based tea. It is strange, when I grow up, I have eaten so many mountains and sea flavors before dying, I remembered the taste of a bowl of inferior meals in the orphanage. There is also inheritance. When you died in your last life, all your inheritance was inherited by me. It is probably a cycle of cause and effect, and retribution is not good. Now it is my turn to return them to you after my operation. Over the years, their value has increased 2 to 3 times. If you don't know how to manage money, don't lose everything. Elder sister. Loyam will take you one last time to call you sister, and say I'm sorry to Xiao Shaowai for me. The signature is Xia Yu's last work. It was a very short letter, but Xiaoling read it over and over again countless times. She lay motionless on the sofa, holding the thin page of paper in a daze. Somewhere deep in my heart, there is a slight throbbing pain. It turns out that when a person is about to die, his conscience will really find out. I don't know how long I stayed on the sofa. The maid came over and looked at her worriedly. "Miss, are you okay?" Then she woke up and said, "It's okay." She got up, went upstairs alone, opened the deepest drawer of the study cabinet, and was about to put the letter in it. His eyes suddenly lingered on the sentence, "The person who harmed you is Sutang." End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weiniang. Chapter 912. Chapter 912 Wedding. The person who harmed her was Sutang? She didn't know whether to believe Xia Yu. Was it Xia Yu's conscience, or was it a provocation? No matter what you say, you must be on guard against others. In the evening, when Lin Yunan sent Shaowai home, she told him about Xia Yu's warning to Sutang, "Be careful when you take little Shaowai with you. I will also send an extra one to little Shaowai bodyguard." Lin Yunan raised his eyebrows. "What about you?" Xiaoling said, "I will pay more attention myself." Lin Yunan asked, "Aren't you going to tell Li Lei about this?" Xiaoling's mood was a little low. "There is no proof, I am not sure whether it is true or not. How can Li Lei believe it? Sutang is his benefactor, and I don't want to embarrass him." She was not afraid of trouble, but she didn't want to see it. The beloved man was torn between love and morality. If she really wanted to do something to Sutang, then she would do it herself. Lin Yunan clicked his tongue. "It's really great. I don't know if he will appreciate it." Xiaoling, "I hope Sutang didn't do that. She can just live her life with Li Rui from a distance. We all don't have to hate each other." Lin Yunan said, she is not a fuel-efficient lamp. Xiaoling, she may not be my opponent so far. In many confrontations, Xiaoling has the upper hand, whether it's status, moving, or completely changing all Li Lei's clothes. Well, except for the marijuana incident mentioned in Xia Yu's suicide note, she didn't fight back because she was not sure whether Su Tang was involved, but even in that incident, Su Tang didn't really take advantage. Lin Yunan looked at her a few more times. Xiaoling was dissatisfied. What are you looking at? Lin Yunan chuckled, actually, Su Tang is much more scheming than you, but it's really strange that he can't beat an opponent like you who doesn't have any brains when he goes out. Who do you think goes out without thinking? Xiaoling was unhappy and glared at him. Lin Yunan smiled and raised his hand, and said insincerely, okay, if you bring some brains, you will be the smartest in the world. Even if you bring them, it's not enough. He said goodbye in a brisk tone, hummed a little tune and walked away. Although Xiaoling said she wouldn't disturb Li Lei, the matter about Su Tang was still weighing on her heart. She went to her brother. Is there any way we can check to see if Su Tang was responsible for the marijuana incident? Xia Mo said in a calm tone, is it important? Of course it's important. Xiaoling was very serious, her eyes sparkling. This way I can confirm how bad she is. How much she will harm me and Xiao Hui. With 7 killers on her side, surrounded by tigers and wolves, she is destined to be at odds with you. She has already become extremely bad. Xia Moyan said very calmly, I would be surprised if she doesn't want to kill you. Xiaoling. But don't worry, he added, the most dangerous period of your Phoenix destiny has passed, and the next phase will be when the danger is turned into good luck, and it will only become more and more auspicious, and she can't really hurt you. What about Xiao Shaowai? This kid is much smarter than you. Xiaoling suddenly felt like beating someone up. Why did everyone here look down on her intelligence so much? She grinned at her back molars unhappily and turned her head arrogantly, huh, I won't invite you to the wedding. That brat doesn't dare not invite me, the Imperial Master said very calmly. Poor classmate Li Xiaolai, no one dares to offend such a cruel brother-in-law. Xia Xiaoling also feels very sad. Why is her husband so timid in front of his elder brother? She had to send the invitation to her brother honestly. The wedding day has finally arrived. The house is full of guests. Countless media outlets around the world reported this grand occasion in real time. Wearing a pure white wedding dress, she slowly walked out of the villa hidden by the red walls. The pearly gauze trailing behind her seemed to be filled with brilliant stars. She was equally dressed up. Surrounded by the bridesmaids and relatives and friends, she had a tranquil smile on her delicate brows and eyes. The brilliance was flowing, and she looked forward to the brilliance with every gesture, and she was alluring. Xiaoling, our Xiaoling finally got married. In front of the TV, many fans watching the live broadcast seemed to be more excited than she was. Many girls hugged their best friends with tears in their eyes. Oh, 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 Xiaoling, it's not easy being with Li Lei. After suffering so much, we can finally be together. I envy them so much. They cried and laughed, with envy and admiration. When Xiaoling walked to the door of the villa, she turned around and glanced at the place where she had lived for many years. This house was gifted by Mr. Li at first. It was to pay her and Li Lei's breakup fee, and she was kicked out of the house and moved here under the force of several bodyguards. At that time, she was so down and out, with no strong family support, no money and no power. All she had was her little fame in the music scene and Li Lei's love. It's a pitiful thing, and it's constantly being suppressed and deprived of. At that time, the old man told her, after living here for 3 years, I will agree to your being with Li Lei. But in the past 3 years, too many storms have happened. The past is like a dream, and looking back it feels like a lifetime ago. Goodbye, Villa, she said softly to the house. There was a huge crowd of people all around, and there were sounds of congratulations and blessings everywhere. Xinjiang urged her to get on the float loudly. It's time for the bride to get on the float, the auspicious time has arrived. So she stopped looking at the house, turned around, and walked towards the float. The first car was the modified off-road vehicle that Li Lei usually used. According to custom, it was tied with red ribbons and large bouquets of flowers, which looked very festive. Li Lei was wearing a gorgeous satin suit, standing in front of the car door with his shoulders straight, his eyes smiling, and his facial features carved by a famous craftsman seemed even more handsome than usual. Many older girls and younger wives looked at him secretly. But he only looked at Xiaoling. He opened the car door for her in an extremely gentlemanly manner and welcomed her into the car as if he were protecting a rare treasure. The cameras of the media reporters kept flashing, and the cameramen carried their machines and scrambled to find the best live broadcast position. 11 Niang said auspicious words again and again, and the little boys and girls who acted as flower girls were chattering. A scene of a prosperous life. In front of the TV, a fan pulled his companion and said with starry eyes, "Li Lei is so handsome, and Xiaoling is really beautiful today." "Who says it's not? But why use an off-road vehicle as the lead vehicle?" Li Lei's off-road vehicle was used for daily driving. It was already half-worn and not a rare and expensive object. No wonder some people were confused. Untie. The TV host responsible for the live broadcast clarified the audience's doubts. "Everyone has seen that the choice of this leading car really surprised us, but it is also unreasonable and reasonable." We interviewed Mr. Li Lei. Why did he choose this car as the first car? He said that he drove this car when he first dated Xiaoling. Later, many things happened between the two of them, and they could not do without this car. Whenever there was a major event, a car is very memorable, so choosing it means cherishing every moment of the memories between the two of you. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weiniang. Chapter 913. Chapter 913, Marry Your Mother When You Grow Up. The audience was moved. Xiaoling and Li Lei, who were sitting in the off-road vehicle, looked at each other and smiled. They are the top rich people in the world. They no longer need to pay attention to ostentation. Let alone using an everyday off-road vehicle as the lead vehicle. Even if they use a tractor, no one will think that they can't afford it. Starting from those top supercars, the motorcade set off in a mighty manner. Immediately behind the leading car were the wedding procession, bridesmaids, groomsmen, parents, flower girls, etc., which was very lively. Further back, there are dowry cars, all of which have a very stylish open-top design, with many furniture and boxes made of agar wood and sandalwood piled on them. In ancient times, when a girl got married, she would wear a red dress and go around the city to show off, so that everyone could see the strength of her mother's family, so that the girl would not be bullied when she got to her husband's family. Nowadays, this whole team of trousseaux also went around the city to show off. Along the way, fans and people who loved to join in the fun crowded both sides of the street. The cheering group had already prepared a large number of flowers, and spontaneously sprinkled petals, which were beautiful and picturesque. Gorgeous and vast, just like being in a dream. Xiaoling gently rested her head on Li Lei's shoulder. Li Lei also held her hand affectionately. "In this life, I am so lucky to be with the one I love. However, some people are happy while others are frustrated." Next door to Xiaoling's villa, the doors and windows were closed, and a man locked himself in a dark basement, cutting off all the noise from the outside world. Pei Xian knew that today was Xiaoling's wedding day. He did not go to watch the ceremony or bless him, and he even hesitated to give a gift. He drank one drink after another, getting as drunk as he had been when she fell to her death from the stage many years ago, and he was devastated. She left, after giving him hope and throwing him to the bottom. How cruel! Zion let out a vague wail from his throat, and lay on the cold ground, sobbing. Outside the villa, some reporters who did not follow the wedding procession knocked on his door and asked Joe's mother, who opened the door, "Is Mr. Pei at home? What does he have to say about the wedding of Mr. Li Lei and Miss Ling, View?" Joe's mother shook her head. "Please don't disturb us. I will never say one more word no matter what." After finally driving those crazy reporters out of the villa, Joe's mother went to the basement to see Pei Zion. However, the door was locked, and only vague and untuned shouts could be heard, like crying, or like a wounded beast wailing. "Gentlemen." Joe's mother was extremely worried, but she couldn't think about it. Outside, the mighty parade of floats finally finished parading. At a private pier in the suburbs, Xiaoling was helped out of the car by Li Lei and slowly walked onto an extremely luxurious cruise ship. It is said that this cruise ship cost hundreds of millions. It was specially ordered by the current Italian mafia godfather for the wedding of his grandnephew. The entire ship is carefully built with traditional retro craftsmanship. For example, the teak floor on the deck is worth hundreds of dollars. A craftsman hammered it in one nail at a time, the TV host said excitedly. Many of the guests invited to the wedding regard it as an honor to be on this cruise ship. "It's really beautiful," many viewers were dazzled in front of the TV. Xiaoling and Li Lei put up several poses on the deck for everyone to take pictures. Xiao Shaowai and several flower girls finally had the opportunity to come forward and join in the fun, holding their legs and acting coquettishly. Dad, please don't marry Mom." "Okay," Xiao Shaowai said in surprise. All the guests looked at him. Li Lei smiled and asked, "Why?" Wearing a cute little suit, Shaowai tilted his head and said, "Mom is so beautiful. I like her so much. When I grow up, I can marry her." "Dad, can you marry someone else?" All the adults laughed. Li Lei also looked at the wedding officiant helplessly and said with a wry smile, "I didn't expect that even if I defeated all my love rivals in the world, I would still have to pass the test of my son in the end." Others also said jokingly, "Young Master Shaowai is the most threatening competitor." Li Lei pinched his son's bulging cheeks and smiled with his white teeth. "Want to marry Mom? Wait until you grow up to be as tall as Dad and can beat Dad." Xiao Shaowai blinked his eyes and nodded seriously, "I'll do my best." A group of adults laughed heartily again. The cruise ship slowly sailed out of the port and headed towards the Li family headquarters. The wind was beautiful and sunny on the sea, and there were white seagulls flying. Today's journey was very long, and it took a long time to reach the high seas. The cruise ship provided many snacks and self-service drinks. The guests enjoyed them while chatting and laughing with each other. Take a short break. The process of this wedding was very special. It was different from ordinary weddings. Taking advantage of the peaceful time when the cruise ship was sailing on the sea, Xiaoling Yi and Li Lei walked among the crowd and chatted with the guests. The people who can be invited on board this ship are all relatives and friends that the couple is familiar with. They are not restricted to each other and the atmosphere is very relaxed. Xiaoling carefully dragged her skirt and walked around the crowd. Many people congratulated her, and she responded to them all with a smile. Suddenly, I saw a man walking over, wearing a groomsman's dress with unique details. He looked handsome and extraordinary against the blue sky and white clouds. "You really shocked me," the man said to Xiaoling, "you actually have such a big background. She is the daughter of the Xia family. No wonder you were dragging me like something at that time. You are indeed arrogant." "Du Yunfan," Xiaoling greeted him with a smile, "at that time, you were still unwilling to accept me as your sister. Do you feel that it is very rewarding now? I've made a lot of money. This is the best deal I've ever done in my life." Du Yunfan laughed loudly. "I'd like to apologize to you for those things in the past. From now on, we will be a family. Let's keep in touch with each other. Come and go." "Who is your family?" Li Lei's voice came from the side of the stab. He punched Du Yunfan and hugged his wife tightly. Let's make a deal first. Don't take advantage of my wife, my love rival. There are already enough. Xiao Shaowai is too busy to deal with, so don't make any more trouble. Oh, my god, nephew is so promising now. Du Yunfan was full of energy. When he grows up, he will definitely be great. Remember to come and play with me, your god uncle. Go, go, Li Lei scolded with a smile. When I first recognized my uncle, taking a string of agarwood beads from you was like killing you. What fun is there for such a stingy uncle? Come, Du Yunfan was bold this time. He didn't dare to offend the direct bloodline of the Xia family. The door of the Du family's treasure house is open. Gold and silver mountains are available to my nephew. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 914. Chapter 914. Pirates board the ship. Li Lei was gearing up. Then when Xiaoling and I finish our honeymoon, we will take the suitcase to pick it up. Du Yunfan's eyelids twitched. Box. Who doesn't regard themselves as outsiders? He looked at Li Lei with a sly smile. Your wife and my little nephew can come, but you don't have to. Li Lei complained that he was stingy, then turned around and told his wife to choose the most expensive one. A few people were chatting and laughing. The warm sea breeze was blowing, and Xiaoling's white wedding dress decorated with pearls and shells glowed with bits of gold in the sun. Suddenly, someone over there shouted, "Look, the pirate ship!" Everyone turned to look and saw densely packed pirate ships appearing on the azure horizon. Each ship had a skull and crossbones flag hung high on its bow and a ferocious cannon mounted on it. They formed a cone formation and headed towards the wedding cruise ship at extremely fast speeds. They were in front of them almost in an instant. So many pirates, someone exclaimed. The guests on the deck were in a panic. Most of them were rich or noble. They had been pampered since childhood. How often had they seen a real pirate? However, the excellent upbringing of the upper class came into play at this time. Although many people looked a little pale, they still looked graceful and without any gaffes. However, the host in charge of the live broadcast was in a mess. Facing the menacing pirate ship, his voice trembled. Pirates? Oh my god, how can there be pirates in the sea area? This sign, Somalia. These are actually the notorious Somalia pirates. How could they come here? I've never heard of them coming so far away from their own waters. Do they have a grudge against Li Lei? The host was trembling while speaking quickly. In front of the TV, countless viewers also saw this scene. Some people couldn't help but drop the teacup in their hands. Oh my god, are these real pirates? The ship was very close, and under the cameraman's magnified lens, everyone could clearly see the pirate's ferocious face, full of murderous intent that actors couldn't portray. Oh my god, fans became worried. Will Xiaoling be okay? This pirate wedding, Li Lei was very evil and did not announce it to the public, and even kept it a secret from Xiaohui. Everyone thought it was just an ordinary cruise wedding. Who knew such a big change would happen? At the Tianyi training camp, the trainees also gathered together to watch the live broadcast of the wedding. Seeing the pirates coming out, a girl named Li Yulai grabbed Ye Xingfei's hand next to her and said in a trembling voice, "Oh my god, there are pirates. Will Xiaoling and the others get into trouble?" Ye Xingfei's face was also a little pale, and she was worried about the progress on the TV. Li Yulai said, "What if something happens to Xiaoling? I like her so much." Ye Xingfei suddenly came back from her worries and remembered that the woman was no longer her sister. She said coldly, she deserved what happened. Who told her to deny her biological father for the sake of glory and wealth? This is retribution. The pirates should take her away as soon as possible. How can you say that? Li Yulai's eyes widened and he turned to look at her in disbelief. Xiaoling is the reincarnation of Xiaoling, so it is natural for her to go to the Xia family. Moreover, your medical expenses and tuition fees have all been spent in the past few years. She paid for it, and she paid a lot for you, because she is Yezingfi's friend. Li Yulai knows a lot about her family, and knows that the Ye family can't afford it, and it's all Xiaoling's help. Yezingfi was even more irritated and said sharply, "Don't mention this to me." The medical expenses and tuition fees were a big worry for her. She obviously hated that woman so much, but she had to accept her grudges and let her carry them in front of others. Don't start. Yezingfi had long secretly sworn in her heart that when she became successful, she would double the money and return it to Xiaoling. Li Yulai stopped talking. She knew her best friend's temper. Yezingfi was good at everything, but she was prone to getting into trouble when it came to her sister. But what can be done? If others can't persuade her, she can only wait until she slowly figures it out herself. Li Yulai turned her head and continued to look at the big screen worriedly. Pirates are on board. In the short time they were talking, the pirates had already surrounded the cruise ship. They climbed onto the cruise ship nimbly one by one. Holding up the submachine guns in their hands, they shouted to the guests in English, "Don't move." There was a chorus of screams. The cameraman was so frightened that he was shaking like chaff, and the equipment on his shoulders was about to fall to the ground, but he was stopped by a pirate with a scar on his face. "Pick up the camera and keep shooting." As he spoke, he slapped the photographer on the face with the sharp blade of a long knife. The cameraman picked up the machine tremblingly and continued filming without saying a word. However, the picture shook violently with his body and was broadcast to the TV screen. Every audience in front of the TV could feel the feeling of fear. There were several other cameramen, and their condition was not much better, but everyone continued to shoot tremblingly under the coercion of the pirates, fearing that they would offend them without saying a word and their bodies and heads would be separated. On the deck, Li Lei protected Xiaoling behind him. He looked at the pirate leader and asked, "Jack, you and our Li family have no enmity in the past and no enmity in the past. What does this mean this time?" Others were really frightened, but he recited the lines according to the wedding process. Bian still found it interesting. It turns out that being an actor feels so comfortable. The pirate leader laughed loudly and played very happily. "We Somali pirates want to rob people, do we need to have a grudge? Li Lei, I heard that you got married. My brothers and I were also very happy and couldn't help but ask for a drink. Wedding wine." Before he finished speaking, several wolf-like pirates rushed towards Xiaoling with great tacit understanding. Li Lei was wearing a formal wedding dress. He directly smashed the wine glass in his hand onto the shoulder of one pirate, and swept his feet towards another pirate, dragging 2 or 3 of them down in an instant. However, there were so many pirates that they couldn't stand it. The other pirates sped up, yelling, and rushed towards Xiaoling. Du Yunfan instinctively stopped one. Although he didn't know that the raid was fake, he knew that he couldn't let anything happen to his brother's daughter-in-law, so he was desperate to deal with the pirates. The cameraman was shaking badly, but still relied on his professional instinct to focus on them. The heroic figures of the 2 men fighting against the pirates were reflected in the camera lens and transmitted to the millions of viewers watching in front of the TV. "Li Lei is so handsome, I want to marry him," a girl shouted in front of the TV. "Idiot, I'm already married." "Then I want to marry Du Yunfan." Similar conversations emerge one after another. Actually, although this wedding was said to be broadcast live, there was actually a 5-minute broadcast delay. The chief director of the live broadcast is Li Lei, one of the very few people who has received the news of pirate wedding robbery in advance. His mission is to edit the pictures and send the figures of the guests who are not afraid of danger to the TV. As for those who are scared and cry, the scenes that were shocking, that were detrimental to the image of these celebrities and aristocrats were silently deleted. I was too tired when I got home last night. I only slept for 3 hours for 2 consecutive days. I said I would update after a short sleep, but I didn't hear the alarm clock and overslept. Good morning everyone. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Sci-fi Niang. Chapter 915. Chapter 915 The Brave Little Guy. Xiao Shaowai's performance was also very heroic. He dragged a pirate with his two small hands, beat the pirate's legs hard, and shouted, "Bad guy! Don't touch my mother." The photographer showed the little guy's anxious expression on the screen. The middle-aged mothers sitting around in front of the TV cameras were very distressed. Some of them wiped away tears and said, "You are so pitiful. How could such a filial child end up like this?" They didn't know that this kind of thing was Xiao Shaowai's own deed. If the child hadn't clamored to see pirates, would Li Lei be able to plan a pirate wedding? Before the wedding, Xiaoling asked Li Lei worriedly, "The child is so young, what should I do if I get scared?" Li Lei smiled so brightly that he showed his white teeth. "How can my son of the Li family be so weak? Pirates are afraid of all pirates. How will he inherit the family business when he grows up? It's time to get some exercise." That's why he was so evil that he didn't tell the truth about Xiao Shaowai. But Xiaoling always felt that he was taking revenge for not playing with them some time ago. On the deck, Xiaoling looked at Xiao Shaowai a few steps away, feeling extremely distressed and about to rush over. "Don't touch my son," although she knew it was just a performance, when Xiao Shaowai rushed forward to protect her regardless of his own safety. She was still nervous and worried, fearing that he would be in danger. A pirate stopped her and laughed, "Don't even think about running away." Over there, Xiao Shaowai had been kicked to the deck by the pirates, looking disgraced. In fact, the pirate didn't use any force at all. How could he dare to really hurt the boss's brother's son? Not to mention that Li Lei is now one of the top gangsters in the world and has a mafia background behind him. Xiaoling is still from the Xia family. Thousands of gold. He really just gave me a light kick. However, Xiao Shaowai was already in severe pain, and the skin on the back of his hand was scratched a little. He didn't care about himself. He got up on his hands and knees and tried to rush up. As he rushed, he shouted, "Mom! Mom!" He saw his mother surrounded by several pirates. One of the female pirates smiled ferociously and picked her up. He quickly headed towards the pirate ship. Xiao Shaowai was anxious and rushed over there. Suddenly, a huge hand grabbed him by the back of his collar. It was Jack, the pirate leader. He laughed and threw the child back to a safe place on the deck like an eagle catching a chicken. "Kid, don't make trouble, ask your father to take him with you. The ransom will come in exchange for someone else." After saying that, with a long whistle, all the pirates stopped and retreated to their own ships. Li Lei led a group of bodyguards from the cruise ship and rushed to the pirate ship. Xiao Shaowai shouted anxiously, "I want to save my mother too." Li Lei took one look at him and really picked him up. The onlookers on the deck and in front of the TV were all going crazy. "Why did you bring such a young child with you in such a dangerous rescue operation?" But there are also smart people who have realized what is going on. At the other end of the deck, Feng Kun silently served himself a cocktail. Wei Shaiyan next to him glared at him and said, "Do you still have humanity? Xiao Ling has been captured and you are still in the mood to drink. It's useless for him to treat you as a friend." When the pirates captured Xiao Ling just now, Wei Shaiyan he also tried to rescue him, but it was a pity that he, a musician, could be a vicious pirate opponent. "I was so worried that I didn't expect that the guy next to me was still in the mood to drink." Feng Kun smiled gently, "This cocktail has a delicate taste and rich layers. It should be made by a famous artist. Do you want to have a drink too?" "Come on, sister." Wei Shaiyan almost wanted to kick him. In front of the TV, there are countless people who want to kick him. Look at the character at the critical moment. So Feng Kun's character is so bad. Fortunately, everyone used to regard him as the big brother in the industry. He has such a good reputation. It's all just an act. But some fans said, there must be a reason why our Akin does this. Fans of Wei Yin sneered, the reason? Isn't it just cowardice? Our Wei is so loyal, he is the #1 music producer in the world. Fans of both sides were quarreling on the internet. What everyone is most concerned about is Xiaoling's condition. Xiaoling, who had been kidnapped by pirates, had her hands tied backwards, and her long bridal tulle headdress was trailing behind her, fluttering in the sea breeze on the deck, and she still looked so beautiful. Pirate leader Jack stood beside her, laughing ferociously on the surface, but secretly lowered his voice and said to Xiaoling, "Little beauty, don't be afraid, Li Lei and I are friends and will not hurt you." Xiaoling also lowered her voice, "Look at my son." Jack still smiled, "Li Lei's son? I think the little guy is very energetic. He almost took off the pants of my subordinate. He will definitely be a good soldier when he grows up. She doesn't want her to be a warrior, she just wants him to be safe." Looking anxiously not far away, Li Lei had already rushed up and was fighting side by side with Xiao Shaowai to deal with the pirates who were hindering them. On the luxury cruise ship opposite, the cameramen who had escaped the threat to their lives were all in high spirits, and their cameras followed this side, fearing that they would miss any wonderful scenes. "Li Lei, come on." In front of the TV, countless viewers watching the broadcast prayed for them. Xiao Shaowai became more and more courageous as he fought. At some point, he picked up a submachine gun dropped by a pirate from the ground, raised it with difficulty, and pointed the muzzle of the gun forward. In the critical situation, he didn't actually think about hitting anyone. He just wanted to use the gun to intimidate the pirates and let them let his mother go. "Let us pass. Or I'll shoot," he shouted. All the pirates were stunned. Pirate A poked Pirate B next to him, "Hey, isn't that gun yours? When did you drop it?" Pirate B looked confused, "How did I know that the little guy was so cruel and it hurt too much to hit someone, so I dodged his fist and accidentally dropped the gun on the ground." Pirate A silently rolled his eyes at the sky. Although this time it was not a real robbery and the pirates did not take it too seriously, after all, they are all experienced masters. It is quite remarkable that such a young child can force the opponent's gun to drop. If it weren't for the fact that the play wasn't over yet, they would have wanted to cheer for Xiao Shaowai. Now, they all put on fierce looks and said to Xiao Shaowai, "If you dare to shoot, we will kill your mother." Xiao Shaowai's face was tense, and the hand holding the gun did not move. Within a few words, other pirates had already surrounded him and his father. All the pirates were holding various guns and pointing their guns at them. The pirate leader Jack continued to lower his voice and joked to Xiaoling, "Your son is really great. He was not afraid of the threat of life and death for the first time on the battlefield. He is worthy of having the blood of so many famous families flowing through him. The Li family, the Xia family, and the Mafia family." Xiaoling was very nervous. The gun won't go off, right? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 916. Chapter 916 A Wonderful Showdown. Jack smiled, "Li Lei didn't tell you?" Xiaoling asked, "Tell me what?" Jack raised his nose with his finger and made a gesture to the pirates surrounding Li Lei with a smirk on his face. The pirates pulled the safety latches on their guns one after another. Danger filled the air and was imminent. Li Lei raised his head and looked at Jack through the crowd. "Isn't this the planned script?" Jack shrugged at him and shouted from a distance, "I originally wanted to let you go, but who told your son to our guns? Now I am very angry, and the consequences will be serious." As he spoke, he waved his arms heavily and said soon after, all the pirates suddenly opened fire on the people in the encirclement. Xiao Hui also instinctively shot at them. Everyone on the wedding cruise screamed, and two timid girls fainted. Wei Shaiyin held Feng Kun's arm tightly and forgot to breathe. In front of the TV, viewers all over the world exclaimed. Xiao Shaowai thought he was going to die, and there was no reason to survive being surrounded by so many gunfire. But unexpectedly, the darkness and pain he imagined did not come. In front of his eyes, colorful confetti and flower petals exploded, falling on his little head one after another. On the head, on the body wearing a nice little suit. Xiao Hui was stunned, and so was Li Lei. When did Jack bring so many fake guns filled with festive confetti? In front of the TV, the audience looked at the colorful paper flying all over the sky, like a colorful world, and they suddenly exploded. What's going on? Did these pirates get the wrong gun? Only Feng Kun on the cruise ship was calm, silently freeing his arm from Wei Shaiyin's tight grasp and continuing to drink his cocktail. You. Wei Shaiyin looked at the direction of the pirate ship and then at his companions, and then suddenly realized, you already knew that the robbery was fake, right? Those pirates had long colluded with Xiaoling and the others. Oh, this is part of the wedding. Did Xiaoling tell you in advance? She didn't even tell me. Facing his indignant gaze, Feng Kun said slowly, the reasoning is very simple. Somali pirates rarely travel so far to rob in such a big way. Moreover, the Li family has an extraordinary status on the road, and the Xia family is not a fuel-efficient lamp. The pirates, how could it be possible to seek death? Wei Shaiyin blinked. Feng Kun continued to drink calmly. After a long while, Wei Shaiyin suddenly realized something and continued to roar at Feng Kun, what's the matter with your contemptuous tone just now? Do you look down on me? What's so great? Feng Kun smiled very gently, with an expression like I know you have a low IQ, but I don't care about you. The internet also exploded. Most people were talking about the colorful shreds of paper and flower petals that suddenly bloomed on the pirate ship, but there were also some supporters of Feng Kun and Wei Shaiyin who couldn't get tired of talking about it, who just said that we a Kun? Is it because Wei Shaiyin has a bad character? We, Kun, have already seen that the pirates' marriage robbery was fake. Ha 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 ha. Fans of Wei Shaiyin, at #%, and on a pirate ship. Little Shaowai also recovered from his confusion, dropped the gun that was spraying fireworks in his hand, raised his little head and looked at his mother and the pirate leader, and then at his father. Did you lie to me? A very cute and very aggrieved tone. The audience in front of the TV was almost impressed by his cuteness, and some middle-aged mothers began to shed tears. Little Shaowai is so cute, and so are Li Lei and Xiaoling. How could he be deceived? Why isn't he, my child? I will definitely not lie to him and love him well. Little Shaowai didn't know this. If he had known that there were so many viewers in front of the TV who wanted to adopt him, he would have thought about changing his parents a long time ago. He looked at his father with watery eyes, waiting for an answer. Li Lei was very calm. What did I lie to you about? You. Xiao Shaowai originally wanted to lie to him about having pirates, but then he thought about it and was speechless. After all, his father had never said anything about pirates. At best, he didn't. Just tell him the truth. Li Lei is so proud that the brat wants to fight with him. Still tender. He said to Xiao Shaowai, don't you like watching pirates? These are real pirate uncles. You can see them all at once. What else do you want to see next time? Don't look for Uncle Lin Yunan, go directly to Dad. Lin Yunan, who heard the conversation replayed on the cruise ship. He finally saw that Li Lei was intent on revenge, which was outrageous, and he could do it to such a young child. Xiao Shaowai also noticed it and blinked, feeling even more aggrieved. Li Lei ruffled his short hair, and confetti fell little by little from the soft hair. These pirates are all friends of Daddy, hurry up and call Uncle Jack, and these other uncles. Xiao Shui called him uncle aggrievedly. After thinking about it, I am very happy again. After all, my mother is fine, which is better than anything else. Furthermore, the pirates are really handsome. The child's emotions came and went quickly. In the blink of an eye, Xiao Shui had forgotten about his father's plot against him. He looked at the pirates curiously with a pair of black and white eyes. Uncles are so powerful, wait for me in the future, I want to be a pirate when I grow up. Captain Jack laughed loudly. Okay, you come. He turned to look at Lilei and said, brother, it's not that I can't help you, it's that your son and I are really destined. He will come to Somalia and become a big pirate in the future. As for the heir of your Li family, you have another child with your wife. In a few words, Xiao Shui's future was decided. Lilei faintly twitched. You are not allowed to have any ideas about my son. By the way, let my wife go quickly. Anyway, the acting was exposed, so he simply asked for his release. Jack said with a smile, you let me go if you ask me to? That's so shameless. At least you have to beat me. He rolled up his sleeves and got off the deck to fight Lilei. Lilei also laughed. You are defeated, why are you still coming? A few years ago, in Somalia, the two had a famous competition. It was Lilei who defeated Jack and won the respect and friendship of all pirates. Now, Jack said, after I lost to you last time, I practiced hard again, and I will definitely win this time. Lilei was not afraid of him. He moved his hands and feet and really planned to compete. All the cameras were focused on them, and even Xiaoling was ready to watch a wonderful showdown with great interest. But at this moment, something unexpected happened. A masked man in black rushed over from nowhere, and while everyone's attention was on Lilei and Jack, he dragged Xiaoling into his arms at lightning speed. Ah! Xiaoling's exclamation shocked everyone. This is the third update last night, face covering. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 917. Chapter 917 Sniper Rifles and Sharks. The man in black looks like a man, with a slender figure, only a pair of narrow phoenix eyes exposed, and the eyes are full of color. He held a dagger against Xiaoling's neck in one hand and looked at everyone with a half smile. It's so lively. It's such a fun thing to steal a marriage, why didn't you call me? Xiaolei. Li Feng, Lilei recognized the man, and even his brother didn't bother to shout, let go of Xiaoling, come at me if anything happens. He and Li Feng's grudges can't be explained in a few words, and they have already been integrated into the blood. Trouble, in fact, many security measures have been taken on this wedding cruise to guard against strong winds, but unexpectedly, they did not sneak into the cruise ship at all, but directly sneaked into the pirate ship. Li Feng smiled enchantingly, and the sea breeze blew away the black scarf covering his face, revealing his face. Others also saw his face clearly, and it turned out to be Li Feng, Lilei's brother. They gasped, what is going on? Is it part of the wedding design? Or are the brothers feuding? On the cruise ship, Xia Moyan said to the live broadcast director, stop filming. The director was startled and quickly asked all the camera operators to turn off their machines. Soon after, the audience in front of the TV became confused and asked, what's going on? Is the signal not good? They waited anxiously, but to their surprise, the display did not end, and advertisements started directly. The sea breeze was blowing gently on the deck of the cruise ship. Xia Moyan looked at his sister who was being held hostage in the distance. His originally cold eyes were even more emotionless. He found a close subordinate of Lilei and asked, do you have a sniper rifle? The subordinate quickly replied, yes. In order to protect the safety of the cruise ship this time, I brought a lot of guns and ammunition. There is one in the arsenal. I will take you to get it right now. Just when Xia Moyan was about to follow him, he was stopped by Mr. Li, who was walking diagonally. The old man looked solemn. Master, Imperial Master, what are you going to do? Xiaomoyan said coldly, get out of here. The old man was stunned. He didn't expect that someone would dare to speak to him like this. However, the person who spoke was the Xia family's national master, and he did have such qualifications. He suppressed the anger in his heart and stood still. Master, Imperial Master, please show mercy, that is my grandson. Li Lei's brother. If he has any shortcomings, Li Lei will feel uncomfortable. Can we still be harmonious with your sister? Xiaomoyan's eyes narrowed slightly, and a hint of murderous aura seeped out. He had no time to talk nonsense with Mr. Li, so he brushed him away with one hand and followed Li Lei's confidant to the weapons depot to find a gun. Mr. Li wanted to catch up, but was blocked by Li Lei's other two confidants. Master, Imperial Master, please show mercy. The old man was so worried that he could only shout from a distance. Xiaomoyan didn't even pause for a moment. Many people on the cruise ship heard the commotion and immediately started a commotion. Is this marriage robbery incident true or false? Is the Imperial Master really going to kill Li Feng? For a time, people were panicked. Feng Kun frowned and finally put down his cocktail glass this time. Wei Shaiyin looked at him, her voice tight. Will Xiaoling be okay? This question is too difficult to answer. Feng Kun understood very well that it would be difficult for Li Feng to hijack Xiaoling and escape in such an isolated environment, unless he killed Xiaoling on the spot and escaped by himself. Xiaoling's situation is not optimistic. But he didn't want to scare Wei Shaiyin. Talking about this kind of thing would not help. Wei Shaiyin became even more nervous. Why don't you speak? Feng Kun patted his shoulder comfortingly, keeping his eyes fixed on the distant pirate ship. Over there, Xiaoling felt a slight sting on her neck, and a trace of warm liquid snaked down her skin, as if she was bleeding. She didn't dare to move or even make a sound, for fear of accidentally letting the dagger penetrate deeper. A few steps away, she could see Xiao Shaowai looking so anxious that he was about to cry, and Li Lei's eyes that were clearly going crazy with anxiety but still trying to stay calm. She heard Li Feng say, long time no see, Xiao Lei. Li Lei said in a gentle tone as much as possible, brother, I'm glad you can come to the wedding. There are a lot of wine and snacks prepared on the cruise ship. I also specially reserved a sea view room for you. You can go there and enjoy it now. Put it down. Come on, Xiaoling, the marriage robbery is just a little joke made by Jack, this session is over. He had sent a wedding invitation to Li Feng before. On the one hand, it was because he was a member of his family after all, on the other hand, he did not want to offend Li Feng, so it was best to invite him over and put him under his supervision. He arranged seamless security measures on the cruise ship. The sea view room specially prepared for Li Feng was made of 720-degree bulletproof materials with no blind spots and multiple password locks, which were far away from other guests and facilitated supervision. It's a pity that Li Feng didn't come. He had deliberately made trouble for the wedding, and only showed up at this time, with evil intentions. Li Feng smiled seductively and dragged Xiaoling to the edge of the deck. It's over? Why do I feel that marrying is more fun than drinking? How about playing for a while? At this time, he had already dragged Xiaoling to the end of the deck. On the edge, the railings of the pirate ship are not high, only reaching a person's legs, and can be flipped out with just a slight flip. Li Feng smiled even brighter. Xiao Lei, look what's in the sea. What else can be found in the sea area? Li Lei has also been in charge of many shipping businesses over the years, and is well aware of all major sea areas around the world. He knows that this is where sharks hang out. At this moment, he understood that Li Feng deliberately waited until he reached the sea area before launching an attack. Brother, he took a deep breath and called Li Feng slowly, I'm not interested in watching sharks. At this time, the guests on the cruise also noticed something was wrong. A flower girl pointed in the direction of the pirate ship and shouted, look, There are so many sharks. At some point, a group of sharks had gathered below the pirate ship, wandering and restless. He seemed to be grabbing for something, and large areas of red blood spread on the blue sea. Oh my God, 2 more timid girls fainted. Xiaoling was too close to the edge, and she could clearly see the ferocious and surging sharks out of the corner of her eye. Her stomach couldn't help but feel turbulent, and her body felt a little chilly. Li Feng, didn't he want to throw her into the sea? She really guessed it right. Li Feng smiled and said, "Is it fun? In order to attract all the sharks in this area, I tied 3 corpses to the bottom of the boat. Jack, these pirates of yours are really useless. It's not challenging at all to kill." Captain Jack was startled and looked around at his subordinates. One of the pirates yelled, "Johnny's gone." Another one also shouted, "Anton and Johnson are gone." They became commotion and looked at Li Feng fiercely, "We are going to kill you." End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 918. Chapter 918, Longing in the Deep Sea. Li Feng laughed wildly, "It's just you? A bunch of trash." The pirates were stunned and wanted to rush forward and cut Li Feng into pieces. However, considering that he had a hostage in his hands, Captain Jack stopped them abruptly. He looked at Li Feng, "Let go of Xiaoling. If you are a man, fight me one-on-one." Li Feng smiled even more openly, "Jack, do you think I'm stupid? Do you think you can save this woman like this? Don't worry, I'll settle the account with you after I finish taking care of this woman." Li Lei walked forward calmly, "Brother, let Xiaoling go. I will agree to any conditions you have." Li Feng looked at him and chuckled, "It's really touching, Xiaolei, what if I want to be the head of the family?" "I'll give it to you," Li Lei said without hesitation. Li Feng smiled again, "Then what if I want your life?" "I'll give it to you too." Li Lei still didn't hesitate. However, Xiaoling over there screamed, "No. Li Lei, I won't allow you to trade your life for me." She was very excited. Desperately, she cut the dagger deeper into her neck, and the blood stopped. "It keeps flowing out." "Xiaoling, calm down and stop talking." Li Lei looked at her worriedly. Xiaoling still said, "You are not allowed to die." The blood flow became even worse. Li Lei hurriedly said, "Okay, I won't die." "You won't die? Then let her die." Li Feng smiled wantonly, "They are such an affectionate couple. I can't bear to see them. Why don't you let me help you?" As he spoke, before anyone could react, he pushed Xiaoling out of the deck. "Xiaoling! Mother! 2 people, one large and one small," exclaimed. At the same time, there was a gunshot, and a bright red blood flower bloomed on Li Feng's chest, and his body fell softly. Xiaoling felt as if the person pushing her behind her lost all her strength. However, most of her body had been pushed out of the deck. Even if Li Feng fell, it would not change the fact that she would fall into the sea immediately. At the critical moment, she looked at the ferocious sharks in the sea and instinctively turned her body away from them. The pirate ship was very tall. Although there was only a slight deviation when it fell initially, when it actually fell into the sea, there was a gap of several meters from Li Feng's original plan for the shark colony. These few meters are life-saving meters. Xiaoling was bitten to pieces by a swarm of sharks without a moment's delay. She sank deeply into the sea. Only then did the sharks react and swim around in pursuit. It was extremely quiet in the sea. Xiaoling opened her eyes wide in fear and looked above her head. There, the golden sunlight shines down layer by layer through the blood-colored gauze on the azure sea, and it is as beautiful as a fairyland. However, it is soon blocked by a large number of sharks, which chase after them gracefully and quickly. From her angle, she could only see their white bellies and sharp teeth with huge mouths. Just one bite is enough to separate the body and head. "Are you going to die here?" Xiaoling struggled to move her hands and feet, but it was just a futile struggle and had no effect at all. She remembered that she couldn't swim. Years ago, when she fell into the water while filming an outdoor scene and Pei Ziyan coldly broke away her hand to survive, she had wanted to learn to swim. However, she would feel uncontrollable fear every time she went into the water, so to this day she still has no way to save herself in the water. Even without these sharks, she would have drowned. Xiaoling laughed at herself in her heart, and her body sank deeper into the sea, while the sharks were getting closer and closer. She wondered with pleasure whether she would drown first or be bitten by a shark first. It feels very bad in my lungs and I can't breathe. Scenes of this life flashed before her eyes like lightning. She was reborn, met Lilei, fell in love and had children, got married. They had gone through so many ups and downs together. It's a pity that I can't accompany him and Xiao Shaowai for the rest of their lives. The group of sharks above our head seemed to disperse somewhat, and the golden sunlight penetrated through again. In the sea water, there were two figures, one large and one small, looking downwards against the golden sunlight, paddling very fast in the water, thinking of her swooping down. Lilei, Shaowai. Why are they here? Why don't you stay on the deck? Don't they know it's dangerous to go into the sea? So many sharks. But, an illusion, it must be an illusion. How could they get through the sharks? I saw those sharks wandering around the two of them, and one of them tentatively opened its mouth to bite Lilei. At this moment, Xiao Shaowai's hand suddenly rested on Lilei. The child was too young, and I don't know whether it was due to lack of physical strength or being unaccustomed to the pressure of sea water. Suddenly he couldn't swim and struggled feebly in the water. Lilei hugged him with one hand, very steadily and forcefully, to help the child settle down. The shark that opened its mouth and tried to bite Lilei flinched, as if he was worried about something, and followed the school of fish to linger around the father and son for a moment or maybe just a few seconds. Then, the entire school of sharks dispersed. Xiaoling is incredible. It must be an illusion, it must be an illusion. How could a group of sharks not bite people? However, when I thought about it, I remembered the time when I buried the Ruyi knot in the snowy mountains. The extremely vicious giant python in the mountains was very cautious when facing Xiao Shaowai, fearing to hurt the child. Little animals all like me. Unexpectedly, the child's words echoed in her ears again. Could it be that these sharks spared their family of 3 just for the sake of Xiao Shaowai? The thoughts in his mind were confused. In front of his eyes, the figures of Lilei and the child were getting closer and closer. With a lot of water in her lungs and a severe lack of oxygen in her brain, Xiaoling didn't know whether the figures of the father and son were real, or whether they were hallucinations caused by her strong longing and desire to win. She just instinctively reached out and took Lilei's strong hand that stretched out towards her. The moment when two hands are held together. An extremely solid feeling came from deep in my heart. Lilei changed his position and carefully lifted her up with one hand, while the other hand had to let go of Xiao Shaowai because he had to swim. The child seemed to have recovered somewhat. He stretched out his short hands and legs and paddled vigorously in the water a few times, but it was still very difficult and he couldn't stand still. Xiaoling used her last ounce of reason to hold onto the child tightly. Under the leadership of Lilei, the family of 3 struggled toward the sea. They surfaced, the decks of pirate ships and wedding cruise ships were full of people, anxiously waiting for news about them. As soon as they saw them emerging from the sea, deafening cheers suddenly filled the sky. Oh my God, this is a miracle. It's incredible that the shark didn't eat them. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 919. Chapter 919 Beat him to death. The crowd was excited, cheering, hugging each other, and celebrating Xiaoling and the others' survival after the disaster. A lifeboat had been lowered long ago, and the lifeguards worked hard to rescue the 3 people aboard. Xiaoling was soaked all over. Her white wedding dress embellished with pearls showed a translucent texture in the sunlight, faintly outlining her beautiful body curves, like a mermaid emerging from the water, but extremely weak. She coughed up water, panted hard, and used her last bit of strength to feel the breath of Xiao Shaowai next to her. The child had passed out without knowing when, his eyes were closed and his expression was pale. Her hands were trembling slightly, and she probed for several seconds, which seemed like a century, before she realized that the child was still breathing weakly. She relaxed in one breath and passed out. Xiaoling, Li Lei called her, not caring that he was exhausted and dripping with water, and gave her artificial respiration and various first aids. With great difficulty, most of the water she had choked in was removed, and after a long period of cardiopulmonary resuscitation, her breathing gradually became calmer. Li Lei then lifted her up and strode towards the cabin. "Doctor, follow me." The ship's doctor hurriedly followed up. Over there, Xiao Shaowai was almost rescued by the first responders. He was out of danger and was carried into the cabin together. Xiaoling didn't know how long she had been unconscious. She had a very long dream. In the dream, there was an endless deep sea, with faint sunshine and blood in a very far away place. She dreamed about Li Lei and a group of sharks chasing him. She screamed and tried to save him, but in vain. She watched helplessly as he was torn to pieces by the group of sharks. Ah, she woke up with a hoarse and vague cry. Xiaoling, the man guarding her at the bedside, also woke up. He looked up and saw her, his heart and eyes full of joy. "You're awake? How do you feel? Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere?" She stared at him for a few seconds, then without any warning she hugged him and cried loudly, her heart breaking. Li Lei was at a loss. "Xiaoling? Xiaoling, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Don't scare me." She ignored him and just cried, scolding him while crying, "Li Lei, you bastard! Why did you jump to save me? What if you were bitten to death by a shark? If you were bitten to death, you called me, what should I do? Li Lei then realized why she was so sad, and explained in a panic, "Xiaoling is good, Xiaoling doesn't cry, isn't it okay for me? I couldn't care less at the time. When I saw something happen to you, I jumped in without thinking." He kissed the top of her hair as he spoke, "Don't cry, don't cry." She was still crying hard. "Who allowed you to jump? Who allowed you to jump? If it weren't for Xiao Hui this time, you would have been bitten to death by a shark. Why did you take Xiao Hui down with you? He is so small, why are you so cruel?" Li Lei was wronged. "I didn't take Xiaowai with me. He jumped out after me. If he hadn't been in the water at that time, I would have beaten him to death. Yes, when he recovers this time, I will move him and beat him to death." Xiaoling cried and reached out to hit him, beating him indiscriminately. "I'll beat you to death first. How dare you jump without him? Have you considered the consequences? If he doesn't follow, you will die. I'll beat you to death." She hit Li Lei again and again, but she didn't have much strength because she had just woken up from a serious illness, so the blows didn't hurt or itch. Li Lei refused to dodge and was beaten by her for a long time. He tried desperately to comfort her, but found that everything he said was wrong. He had no choice but to hold her tenderly in his arms, pat her back gently, and coax her with gentle words. It wasn't until she was tired of beating and crying that she slowly stopped. He took a tissue from the bedside table and wiped her face. "It's okay, don't you think our family of 3 is fine? You are my phoenix, and I am your Wutong. As long as we are together, nothing will happen. Xiaoling is about to cry again. He has been the one who saved her all these years. She has lost count of how many lives she owes him. Sniffing, she caught a glimpse of Xiaohui, who was still sleeping soundly on the small bed next to her. The little guy was sleeping peacefully, breathing heavily. He didn't know what good things he had dreamed of, and he still had a peaceful smile on his face. Li Lei also followed her gaze. My son is very brave, he said happily that this time, it was Xiao Shaowai who saved both of their lives. Beat him to death, Xiaoling said dully. How old is this guy? He becomes more and more disobedient. How dare he jump into a sea full of sharks? Under the sea, her heart was broken when she saw him struggling feebly because he couldn't row through the water. This time it was good luck and all three of them were saved. What if he was unlucky? Obviously, Li Lei rarely agreed with his wife on this matter. The son is brave, but he does deserve a beating. Classmate Li Xiaolai, who has survived the disaster, is already thinking about how to fight to make his son have a better memory. In his sleep, little Shaowai didn't realize what the cruel parents were planning. He turned over and smacked his lips. He didn't know what delicious food he dreamed of. He bit his thumb and slept more soundly. Looking at his son with a happy face, Li Lei couldn't help but hug his wife tighter. He kissed the ends of her hair again, and whispered in her ear, "Shall we have another child?" Xiaoling rested her head on his solid shoulder, looked at her son who was sleeping soundly with him, and said softly, "One person is so uneasy, what if two people can't beat him?" Li Lei smiled and reached out to unbutton her clothes, a little princess again, not as naughty as a brat. She whispered, "My son is still here." But he didn't care so much. He turned over and pushed her down, and they were lingering for a while. Maybe it was because they had just experienced a life and death disaster, or maybe they were too afraid of losing each other. This time they were entangled for a long time before they separated. When everything was over, she put her hands around his neck and said, "Stay with me." He held her gently in his arms. She felt his breath and body temperature. After some time, she gradually felt a sense of stability in her heart. It was as if the wedding robbery and the nightmare at the bottom of the sea had gone away and turned into an unreal phantom. The starry sky is so beautiful, she looked out the window and murmured. I don't know when, it has already fallen into the night. Li Lei also accompanied her to look at the stars and told her, the wedding process has been delayed. The wedding banquet was originally planned to be held on the island in the clouds today, but now it has been rescheduled to tomorrow. The guests were all very considerate, so they didn't leave no complaints. Let's have a party on the cruise tonight and attend the wedding banquet tomorrow. She nodded. It was great to have him around, everything could be done properly. Suddenly I thought of a person and asked, how is Li Feng? End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 920. Chapter 920, Marriage. Li Lei's expression became a little gloomy when he mentioned this name. Xiaoling put her arms around his waist and looked up at him. Did Li Feng run away? No, Li Lei said now, he was shot by your brother with a sniper rifle. The wound was only 1 centimeter from the heart and he almost died. I have imprisoned him and tied his hands and feet with chains. He escaped, it won't fall so far. Li Lei still doesn't know whether his brother-in-law missed the shot, or whether his shooting skills were so accurate that he didn't want to injure Li Feng's life. Anyway, looking at the troubled look in his brother-in-law's eyes, he didn't dare to ask. And my brother really needs to be taught a lesson. What are you going to do with him? Xiaoling asked. Li Lei said, keep him locked up first and treat his injuries slowly. I have already contacted the Wei family and will buy a new type of medicine from them. People who take it will gradually turn into idiots. He did not want to treat his brother like this, but now it seems that this is the best ending. Li Feng is too dangerous, even if he is imprisoned for life, it will not make people feel at ease. In the past, Li Lei could care about his brotherhood when he was single, but now that he has Xiaoling, he doesn't want his temporary forbearance to put Xiaoling in danger. Xiaoling asked him softly, "Are you sad?" He didn't expect her to ask this, and the soft place deep in his heart felt a little sour. After touching her smooth long hair, he said, "There are many sad things in this world. Giving up is to protect the more important things." She also felt a little sour in her heart and hugged him tighter. The two of them cuddled together and fell asleep. Early the next morning, Xiao Shuai also woke up. The family of three changed into dresses and makeup and continued the wedding process. The cruise ship stopped at a small island. It is a private island belonging to the Li family. It is now decorated like a wedding banquet venue. There are colorful balloons and white flowers everywhere. Uniformed staff entertain celebrity guests, making it festive. The thrilling episode yesterday was as if it had never happened. After arriving on the island, Xiaoling changed into a more formal wedding dress. It was a gorgeous and elegant backless style with a 10-meter long tail that was stunning. Accompanied by the melodious wedding music, her father, the patriarch of the Xia family, personally took her hand and walked slowly towards the flower gate, while Li Lei waited in front of the flower gate decorated with lilies and roses, smiling brightly. Chief Xia handed his daughter's hand to Li Lei. Li Lei took it solemnly. She wore long thin lace gloves on her hands. Her fingers were slender and graceful. There were heavy shadows of flowers under the sunlight, making her look like a little fairy. "Take good care of her," Chief Xia said, trying his best not to let anyone hear the reluctance in his voice. Li Lei looked into his eyes sincerely. "Dad, I will protect Xiaoling, take care of Xiaoling, and make her happy for the rest of her life. You can rest assured." Clan Chief Xia nodded majestically, but his eyes still showed reluctance when he looked at his daughter. Xiaoling was held by Li Lei and was about to walk into the flower gate. However, she suddenly stopped and turned around to hug her father. "Dad," she called, choking. She has had a very hard life. She has not known who her parents were since she was a child. She finally recognized them, but they got married right away. She has not shown much filial piety to her parents at all. It's not just her father who can't bear to leave her. She couldn't bear to leave her father either. She hugged Patriarch Xia's not-so-tall body tightly and burst into tears. Chief Xia was pretending to be dignified, but at this moment he couldn't help but have red eyes. "Daughter," he said distressedly, "I will live a good life with Li Lei from now on. Dad is not around, so you have to take good care of yourself and come back to see me and your mother when you are free. Do you understand?" Hence, I can't say any more, my voice is hoarse. Many guests watching the ceremony nearby wiped away tears. At this moment, they had forgotten that the person standing in front of them was the head of the Xia family. He could change the world with just a tap of his feet. At this moment, he was just an ordinary father. Like thousands of fathers in the world, he has deep love and reluctance for his daughter. Xiaoling's tears fell down and she nodded vigorously as she cried. Chief Xia hurriedly coaxed her, "Don't cry, you won't look beautiful if you wear makeup. Today is your happy day, Xiaoling, please be happy, okay?" She nodded and cried again, her tears simply unstoppable. Li Lei took a few steps forward, gently took her out of his father's arms, and put her into his arms. It's okay," he comforted softly, "in the future, I will often accompany you back to your parents' home to see your parents and brother." She felt a little better now, and he held her hand obediently and walked towards the MC's stand. The bridesmaids and groomsmen followed, and the flower girls held the wedding dresses and scattered flowers. Soon they arrived at the MC's stand under the auspices of the MC, the two exchanged vows and rings. When the shining platinum ring was put on her hand, she couldn't stop crying again. "Little crybaby," he laughed at her, lowered his head, and kissed her very preciously. The way the two were kissing was like the most beautiful painting in the world, which attracted reporters under the MC's stage to take photos. Time seemed to be frozen in this moment, and it lasted forever. The guests watching the ceremony burst into applause as the ceremony was completed. She is finally his bride. From now on, she will be the just and legitimate MRSLI. There will no longer be any rumors about being a benefactor or a mistress. She will be just and legitimate. The one who is not justified is another woman, Sutang. Sutang did not come to this wedding. It was okay if she didn't come to such an occasion. Lilei didn't force it. Even Mr. Li rarely maintained the same attitude as his grandson. Just kidding, the bride comes from the mysterious and powerful Xia family. If the Xia family is displeased, things will never end. Compared to the bride's identity, Sutang is nothing. Mr. Li said to Sutang, "Tang, you are a good girl. Renren, even if you don't have a serious status, you will always be the grandson-in-law of my Li family in my heart." Sutang responded with a sense of grievance, but was sullen in his heart. "In your heart, is your grandson's wife? What's the use? Who do you think you are, old man? There is no way to influence Lilei at all. What she wants is to be Lilei's honest wife. Since even the old man won't help her, she must save herself." She locked herself at home and watched the wedding live broadcast almost masochistically. Knowing yourself and your enemy means you can win every battle. She must know as much information about her love rival as possible before she can formulate a more perfect plan to defeat her opponent. But as I looked at it, I just felt that the picture was heartbreaking. Ever since the bride left the house yesterday, she has been filled with burning jealousy. She can hardly restrain her emotions and wishes she could just rush into the TV and tear Xiaoling to pieces. Later, the signal was interrupted, and she instinctively sensed that something had happened. She was so happy that she couldn't help but kneel down and pray, asking God to let Xiaoling die a good death. End of this chapter.